And this will be available via the District Council website, and we'll probably make that a link via our YouTube channel. So, yeah, just please be aware, and if that means you want to turn your camera off, then please go ahead. But that's not compulsory. My name is Bryn Maybe. I'm the communications lead for Lewes District Council. Uh, and first of all, I'd like to thank you all for joining us for this webinar on the Lewes District Local Plan. We launched the current stage of consultation last week, and this is the first in a series of public events in support of this current phase of consultation. In a moment, I'll pass over to Councillor Lawrence O'Connor, who is the lead cabinet member for planning and infrastructure, to say a few words. After which, we'll hand over to Nadeem, who will talk us through the bulk of the session, and this will cover what a local plan is and why it's so important that as many people as possible have their say through this consultation. Nadeem will also talk through the themes and policies of the plan, as well as the ways that you can send feedback.
Turn our camera off.
I'm just going to mute everyone but myself, so future speakers might need to unmute themselves. Thanks. So we will have some time for a Q&A at the end. If you could please put your questions into the chat on the side, and we'll pick those up at the end. If there's any that are straightforward that I'm able to answer myself as we go in the chat, I will do. But we'll save those questions for the Q&A at the end, just in the interest of making sure that we can get through the bulk of the presentation. And just before I pass over to Lawrence, I want to say a quick word of thanks to colleagues from a number of town and parish councils who have been working with us in the development of our programme of consultation and engagement activity around the local plan. Their feedback has been hugely valuable over the course of recent months in our own plans around this, and yeah, we'd just like to put that thanks on record. So enough from me, Lawrence. I'll hand over to you, and you may need to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, Bryn. I wanted to thank everybody for attending this afternoon. This local plan preparation is really key to how our district will look and feel in the future. So spending time on getting it right now is therefore very important. Your involvement at this stage is very important. So thank you. I'd also like to thank all those involved. Bryn's mentioned the town and parish clerks, and also the local plan steering group councillors on Lewes District Council, and most importantly, the planning policy officers who've worked really hard to get here. Now, I'd want to encourage as many people as possible to contribute to this consultation by whatever means they feel most comfortable using. There are lots of opportunities to contribute online or face to face. And I'm sure Nadeem Din, who's the head of planning policy at Lewes District Council, who now talk to us, will tell us all about the plan and where we are at the moment, together with the ways to get involved and contribute. So thank you, everybody, once again for attending. And can I pass over to Nadeem?
Right, thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, Brent, for that. And welcome everybody to this evening's session. So over the rest of this, the time that we've got, I would like to take you through the plan in terms of what we're looking to do and what the consultation is about. So in terms of what I'll be talking about, just to cover very briefly the process and what the plan making is, then this current phase of consultation and what we are looking to do through it, and then a little bit of time at the end to talk about the changes to the national policy and planning policy in particular, which the government has been announcing since just before Christmas. So moving on to the next slide, then just to start off with, what is the local plan and what is the Lewes local plan? The local plan is a document which sets out how much growth or development should take place and where it should be located, what facilities and infrastructure are needed to support that development and change which will happen in the areas, and also which areas and sites should be protected from development for other uses such as green spaces and open spaces and such like, and also coming back to the development in terms of how that development should be built and what it should look like. So it's a very key document which every local authority in the country has to prepare and have in place. In terms of the Lewes local plan, the context in which we are developing this is really in a plan-led system. So this is the way that planning is done in England. And at the top of that hierarchy sits the National Planning Policy Framework. And the Lewes local plan, which we're developing, really for the district covers the areas of the district which are outside of the national park, and that's illustrated on the map on the screen. So the dark shaded green is the areas that we're talking about in this local plan. Now the national park is also a planning authority, and so they are responsible for developing the local plan for the areas of the district that they cover, and they are currently preparing to come out to consultation. So there will be, over the next couple of months, a period of time where we will be consulting on two separate plans covering the district. As I said, the planning system in England is a plan-led system, which means that as local planning authorities, we're expected to and required to prepare a local plan, which is then the starting point for determining planning applications. And what this means for us is that we will be looking to a plan which is looking forward to 20 years. So the local plan that's currently under development is looking to the period to 2040. In terms of how we've been preparing this, for those of you who attended and were involved in the consultation at the end of last year, early this year, we've been preparing the plan since the start of 2020. It is a long process through which we've got to bring the plan forward, but really since last or earlier since last year, we've been collecting further evidence. The plan is informed by national policy, and there's been changes to national policy in the last 12 months as well. And then there's also the consultation and the responses to the consultation that we had that we've been working through. So we last consulted on the local plan in November 23, or started it in November 23, and we finished that consultation in the middle of February of 24. And that consultation was on the policy directions and to really help us firstly understand whether the policies that we were looking to develop, and which I'll be talking about in more detail later on, were the right ones, and the direction that we would want to take them through were the right ones. And alongside that, we also consulted on the spatial strategy options that we had identified through the early consultation in 21. And importantly, we were also able to, in the last consultation, set out what our housing requirement would be, in this sense of we were unable to demonstrate that we were going to be able to meet our housing need in full, but we had identified a range that we could potentially look to work and develop. So I'll be able to provide a bit of an update on that this evening. And since the last consultation, we've also been developing further evidence. And as you'll see from the information that we've published on the website and our consultation portal, there's been a number of further evidence studies that we've been able to complete in the last 12 months. And again, those are informing the development of the plan and what is up for consultation at the present time. The plan, once it's completed its journey in terms of preparing, will then be scrutinised and challenged at examination, and that examination is a public event, and it is led by an independent planning inspector who's appointed by the government, and they will look at the plan as a whole and really scrutinise it in detail. In terms of that scrutiny, the inspector will be required to test whether the plan has been prepared in accordance with legal requirements, and in planning language, that's called that is called the test of soundness, and the plan has to be found to be sound. And for a plan to be sound, it must be positively prepared. And what that means is that it has to have a strategy through which it is looking to deliver the need that has been identified. That strategy has to be justified, it has to be based on evidence, and it's got to be effective, which means that it's got to be deliverable over the plan period, and it must address the cross-boundary matters that are identified, and it must be in conformity with national policy. So those are the tests of soundness that the plan will be subjected to at examination. In terms of the plan making timeline, as I said, we started this journey back in 2020 when we started to review the existing plan, which was adopted in 2016, and then part 2 was adopted in 2020. So we've been gathering evidence and also having early engagement. We completed a Regulation 18 issues and options consultation, and then we carried out a further consultation, as I said, in November of 23, going into February of 24, through which we asked for comments and views on the options for growth and development, and also the policy directions. And today we are at the phase 1 consultation of the plan, where we've set out detailed policy wording and identified a number of sites which could potentially be allocations, and we would want to have some early engagement and views on those through this consultation. In terms of the next steps, we will be looking to do a phase 2 consultation later this year, possibly towards the back end of this year, but if not earlier. And through that further phase 2 consultation, we will seek to set out the housing requirements in terms of what the plan is looking to deliver, as well as the final set of draft policy wordings. And following on from that consultation, we'll then prepare our submission version plan, which we will come to public consultation on further at Regulation 19. And following that further Regulation 19 consultation, we will then seek to submit the plan for examination in public. Following that examination in public, the report from the inspector will come back if it's successful, and if the inspector finds our plan sound, it will return to the council for approval by full council, and it then becomes an adopted council document. In terms of the current consultation, then we started, as Bryn said, on Monday of last week, and the consultation is open until the end of February. Through this consultation, we are seeking to gather views on the policies, and particularly the detailed context of those policies and the sites that we've identified through the early site allocations. We're also sharing new evidence that we've developed, as well as any updates to existing evidence, including the land availability assessment, and that is all available on our website. We will also, through this consultation, carry out a series of consultation drop-in events, The details of those are on the website, and I'll cover them in the next slide. But they are at various locations across the district, and obviously we're having the webinar today, which we will conclude at the end. In terms of as I said, the next phase, there will be a further phase, and through that second phase, we will look to firm up the sites that we want to include and allocate in the local plan, as well as the final text of the policy wording. In terms of the consultation, if you've not been onto the consultation portal, that's the front page. There is a lot of information available on that site, and I would encourage everybody to do go and have a look at the information that's available on there. And if you're able to, then really review that and read that before you attend any of the events, as there may be answers in there that there may be questions that you've got that will be answered through the document, but also it may help you refine some of the questions that you've got for us when you come to those events. In terms of then what is in this current consultation, so we're carrying forward the themes that we set out in the last consultation, and we've added in an additional theme on health and well-being. So and what that does is it brings together all of the policies which are addressing the health and well-being agenda. There's also a new section on the early site allocations. So if you wanted to see where the sites that we are considering are, then it's in that section of the document that will be that you'll be able to find that information on. Right, just then turning into the thematic areas of the policy, then in terms of setting out the long-term planning vision and strategy for the growth, the spatial development strategy looks at and sets out where the environmental constraints are, as well as where the availability of land for development is, the viability of that development, and the need, therefore, then to balance the demands of development against supporting the local economy and meeting the local needs, as well as protecting our environmental assets. So through these sets of policies, what we're seeking to do is set out where development can take place, how that development will be, and how it will help us deliver the sustainable places that we need to be building and creating. It will also, through this, the policies in this area will also seek to reflect the overall vision and the strategic aims of the local plan, and those will then help inform future plans, particularly neighbourhood plans that will be developed as and when they are needed. The theme on climate change sets so we've got several policies in this section, in this theme, and these really are the policies which set out how we are responding to the climate change challenge, as well as what we think and consider future development should be doing to support that. As you'll all be aware, climate change is a key priority, and addressing the effects of climate change are key priorities for the council. And so through these sets of policies, we're looking to support the wider council's ambitions for making Lewes a greater, greener place. There are also several policies, including a new policy to address green gaps, and setting out some green gaps between some of our settlements and the natural environment section. And through the themes and the policies in this theme, what we're looking to do is to make sure that alongside development, we're also protecting our natural environment by both maintaining it, but also exploring and ensuring that where opportunities arise to improve that, we're able to do that through development. We're also looking to enhance the green and blue infrastructure. So those are your open spaces, but also the waterways and the water courses that flow, so the rivers and the streams. that we have in our district to make sure that they are protected and their health is supported. And we're also looking at making sure that where development is coming forward, it is not coalescing settlements, and particularly in our rural areas, and making sure that the green gaps or the green open spaces between certain settlements are protected, and those settlements are set out in policy NE5 in the document. Water is a key theme for us as a local authority, both in terms of making sure, particularly as we're on the coast, but also making sure that our rivers are and streams are protected. And so there's a number of policies in the document that we're looking to include, both to protect the quality of the water, but also how we use that water, both in terms of new development and where extensions or renovations are carried out, then to make sure that the best use of water is made. And there is also policies in terms of how we intend development to support flood risk management, both through improvements and through design. The next thematic area that is included in the plan is then on health, and the intention through these sets of policies is to create healthy places, both in terms of a preventative agenda, but also making sure that where people and communities do need the infrastructure, that infrastructure is available for them, both in terms of how new development is designed, to making sure that it allows people to live more active lives through the choices that they have for movement. And so the agenda, the areas particularly that this is looking to address are around health and well-being, making places vibrant and healthy, as well as giving people the opportunities to grow food or have access to local food that is grown locally. The key theme is homes for all, and so we have 8 policies that we're looking to develop through the local plan to address the needs for housing, and this is both to meet the housing needs of people in our plan area. We need to both increase the amount of affordable homes, both to rent, but also to buy. So in addition to providing new homes, we also need to make sure that we're providing homes of the right type in the right places. And that includes making sure that we are able to make the a detailed requirement based on evidence on the amounts of affordable homes that we would want to see come through the plan. Economy and regeneration is also something that the plan looks to address, and what we're looking to do through the policies in this theme is to make sure that we're safeguarding and intensifying our existing employment sites, so that the first opportunities are provided to them to both expand and diversify, but also to make them more sustainable in the longer run. And then following on from those, making sure that we've got policies in the plan which will support our town centres, particularly and the uses that are in those town centres, as well as making sure that our rural economy is supported through the planning process, and our key area of New Haven ports. Building new settlements and new development needs to be of a good quality design. It needs to respect the landscape as well as the built environment, and so therefore we've got several policies which are looking to do that under the design, landscape and built environment theme. We've got, as you can read on the screen, we've got a variety of towns and landscapes in the plan area, from the coastal towns to small rural hamlets, and so we need to make sure that Any future development which does take place is respectful of the context in which it is being developed, and respects the existing landscape and the character. So that's a series of policies there which are looking to seek to achieve those aims. The last and final theme in the plan is on community facilities and infrastructure. And so, as I said at the outset, one of the things that the plan seeks to do, and having a plan in place will allow us to do, is to make sure that any development that does come forward comes with the appropriate infrastructure, whether that be changes and modifications to the existing infrastructure, or whether that's new infrastructure that's provided. So a series of policies which have been developed and on which we're asking for comments on include the railway, the former Lewes railway line, looking to protect the land that any future railway, if it's reopened, can be developed on. To digital infrastructure, making sure that the new developments are both able to move to a new economy, but also give and provide the infrastructure for people to live their lives in a way that is changing in terms of technology and the way that we use that, as well as making sure that we've got enough commercial community use spaces within the planned area. So those are the thematic policies that have been developed for this plan, and upon which we're asking for comments and views on. I mean, for each one of these policies through the consultation, we're asking for whether the wording and the policies themselves, whether they are the right ones, whether there's anything missing in the plan that should be included in the next phase of consultation and the next phase of the plan's development. And really, so it is those sorts of comments and views that we really welcome through this consultation. In terms of what the plan is seeking to do and what it's being required to do, we've got a housing and employment need. So as I said, the plan is about trying to meet the need. There is a formula which government has required every local planning authority in the country to use. And that formula was recently amended just before Christmas. So the standard methodology for Lewes District now gives us a housing requirement of, or a housing need of 13,140 homes for the plan area. So this is the area of the district which is outside of the national park. If we were to include the national park, our per annum figure increases from 657 homes per year to 853 homes per annum. And so that is the number of homes that the plan should be looking to meet in terms of identifying a sufficient amount of land. In terms of where we are against that figure, we can confidently say that approximately 5,000 of the homes that are needed are already in the system as either developments that have been delivered since 2020, because that is the start of the plan period. So we're looking back from 2020, or they are developments which have been identified in the existing local plans but haven't yet been built, and so we know they will be coming forward through the next few years. Or there are commitments that have been are in but haven't been through the planning application process yet. So we're through this local plan looking to identify we're looking to identify an additional supply which will meet our housing need. And as I said in the previous consultation, we set that out in terms of what that requirement and that range might be based on our assessment of the site. That work is still ongoing. We're still looking for additional sites. And alongside this consultation, we've also published an assessment of the sites that have already been with us and put forward to us to assess, but aren't included as site allocations. So if you wanted to see those, then you'll be able to see those sites from the website as well, under the last section. So we've made an assessment of sites. It's important for me to be clear that the LAR is a technical document. It is not an allocation of sites. So I want to make that clear, that the sites that are in the LAR, no decision has been made as of yet as to whether they are included as site allocations. And we will not do that until we've got all of our evidence to support the plan and the selection of sites, and any sites that are allocated will be set out in the next phase of the consultation. In terms of the employment need, so the plan needs to identify what is the employment need from the evidence that we've had collected to date. We're able to say that our employment need can be met through the existing allocations, and that is either through intensification of the sites that are allocated and identified, or through the repurposing of what those sites are used for. So it could be that there's a change of use. So in essence, we do not need at this point in time, based on the evidence, to look for additional sites to accommodate economic needs. In terms of the housing need, as I said, we want to through the plan be able to identify and make sure that the locations that we're allocating are sustainable and direct development to the most sustainable of locations. And so from the sites that have been put forward to us and from the LAR assessment, those sites which are deliverable using the evidence that we've got to date, we've identified through this consultation in the early site allocation proposals, and that shortlist is included in the consultation. In terms of the final housing number that the site, the plan will look to deliver and allocate, we will carry out further evidence testing and further evidence work before we set that out in the next phase of the consultation. In terms of what is included in the current consultation, we've given priority to PDL sites. Those are previously developed sites, more commonly referred to as brownfields. And so we've looked at sites that have been put forward through to us and through the LAR assessment, and said yes, they could be delivered and developed. We've looked at all of the sites that are in our settlement hierarchy tiers, and the settlement hierarchy is an assessment of the services and functions available. And so the table on the right of the slide sets out where the settlements in our plan area fall within the settlement hierarchy tiers and what the function of those tiers is. Once we've exhausted the brownfield sites, we then turned our attention to sites that had been put forward to us that were greenfields, i.e. these were sites that have not had any development on them in the past of any form. And we looked at the top three tiers, i.e. the district centre, the service centre and the service village settlements, and said, well, where could we potentially look to identify sites that would help us meet our need? And those sites are also included in the early site allocation proposals. Now, at sites which were in tier 4 villages of the settlement hierarchy, we've not identified through the early site allocation proposals for a number of reasons. One is that we want to be able to make sure that the outstanding evidence that we need to inform the strategy is available before we make that decision. But also when we've considered, and as you will see from the LAR, the number of sites that are from those tiers are in a higher number. And so we want to be able to have that evidence and all the evidence that we need before we set out what our strategy is. This process will continue to evolve beyond the current consultation. And as we get new evidence and updated evidence, we will refine those assessments and off-site and set out a number of locations through the next consultation. In terms of where the sites are in the current consultation, the table, this slide sets those out. So these are all the brownfield sites and the amount of development that we think can come forward from these sites. This is still subject to further testing, but at this point in time, these are sites that we think we're able to meet, or will help us meet our housing need, I should say rather. And then these are, sorry, those two fast, and those are the greenfield sites. These are sites that are, as I said earlier on, those sites that have not had any development on them in the past. But they are what we consider at this point in time to be a potential candidates for allocation through the local plan. In terms of, so that brings me to the end of what's in the local plan. In terms of the planning policy landscape, for those of you who've been following government announcements over the past couple of months, there's been a change in government since the election last year, but and what that's meant is that we've had a consultation from government on the National Planning Policy Framework, and there's been a revised National Planning Policy Framework issued at the start of or middle of December. And alongside that, we've also had a number of changes which have affected how the plan is going forward and what we're able to consult on at this point in time. There will be further changes coming in the next year or so to the planning framework, including a planning and infrastructure bill, which we're expecting government to set out in Parliament in the spring. And as you all know from the devolution white paper that was published just before the Christmas break, government is also looking to reorganise local government. So there'll be a number of impacts out of that affecting the local plan for progress longer term. In terms of the consultation, we have got a number of ways that you can participate in it, and we would like your views in those. The consultation portal has all of the documents available on it, including a questionnaire which you can either complete online or download and complete and send in to us. There is also the opportunity to write into us both via email or through the traditional mail process. So those options are there as well. And you can share the QR code from this slide, which will then allow you to, which will then take you to the website of the consultation portal. As I said, there are ways that you can be involved, and those are in the consultation events that will be taking place starting from the end of this month. In terms of the key question, the presentation, I think that's where I'm going to stop, Bryn, and it's an opportunity for questions, which I'm sure have been coming in.
Thanks very much, Nadeem. Yes, and thank you everybody who has been posting your questions. I'm going to pick them. Some of them relate, or some of them are linked. So I think we'll be able to answer sort of two in one in certain circumstances. And thank you, Lawrence. I've seen you've answered some of the questions, and that's really helpful. I have answered this in the chat, but I think it bears repeating. We've had a couple of questions about sites in Lewes Town. So there's a question around Lewes Town not being mentioned in the settlement category table, and also a question about whether the brownfield sites in the centre of Lewes are being included, because some have been empty for years. I think it probably is worth coming back on those, please, Nadeem, to talk about the two separate local plans.
Okay. All right, thanks for that. So if you recall from the earlier slide, the district as a planning authority is divided between the areas that fall within the South Downs National Park and the areas that are outside of the South Downs National Park. And so for Lewes Town, which is within the national park, the town is included and covered through the South Downs National Park Local Plan. So we don't talk about it, we don't touch it as such in the Lewes District Local Plan, because it is for the purposes of planning, it is a completely different authority to us. So hopefully that's answered it. What I will say is, as I said, the national park will be looking to consult and do some consultation events on their local plan. And so if you are a resident of Lewes Town and want to know more about that plan and what's included, then there is a consultation event taking place on the, which day was it?
The Lewes event, that's the Wednesday, the 5th of February.
Wednesday, 5th of February. So if you wanted to come along to the event on the 5th of February at the Town Hall in Lewes, then you'd be able to hear more about the proposals for Lewes Town and the sites within Lewes Town from National Park colleagues. I think we're on to that question.
Thanks, Nazim. That answers that question really well. And once the National Park launches their consultation, we'll make sure we share that through our channels. It's sort of fortunate that the two are being consulted at the same time, so it makes it very easy for us to, again, provides us with a good opportunity to remind people of the two planning areas, because it's something, it's an ongoing challenge for us. So we've had a couple of questions about devolution and local government reorganisation and what the impact of that could be on this.
In terms of the immediate progress and development of the local plan, the government, through publishing the NPPF and some of the ministerial statements that came alongside that, are all indicating that local planning authorities should continue to develop their local plans and should look to submit those. So we have a deadline of December 2026 by which to submit the local plan. One of the things that government asked every local planning authority in the country to do as it published the final version of the NPPF was also to prepare and update the local development scheme, which in layman's terms is the timetable for preparing the local plan, and to submit that to government by the 6th of March. So the 6th of March of this year, we've got to submit our timetable for when we will prepare for how the remaining stages of our local plans journey will be and when they will be, and we'll need to provide that to government. So in terms of the wider devolution and reorganisation of local government, in the short term, really very little impact on the local plan, but more longer term and potentially for the next plan after this one, there'll be implications which I couldn't comment on at the point in time.
Thank you, Nazim. Okay, so we're going to get into some more some questions that are a bit more specific now. So firstly, this is question about transport modelling from the County Council. So has there been any commitment from East Sussex County Council Highways to produce the transport modelling? And also from the Environment Agency regarding flooding? And what will we do as an authority if they're not forthcoming, because they're critical for the land availability assessments?
Okay. In terms of the transport, the County Council is the responsible local planning authority. I'm actively talking to them about the transport modelling work, and we are very close to starting that piece of work to understand what the impact of developments would be in terms of transport modelling. So that's something that we will have to and need to work with county colleague on preparing. It is a key critical evidence piece that we need to inform the strategy. So that's underway. In terms of the flooding aspect, again, we've published the strategic flood risk assessment level 1 as an interim, and we've had conversations with the EA about that, and we're waiting for their comments on that. So both of those are underway in progress at the moment.
Thanks, Nadeem. And this may be the same answer, but just sticking with transport modelling, highways have mentioned constraints around Ewood Corner and the Snail roundabout, Colfell roundabouts. When will they produce the modelling to show the maximum limits? Is that the same document?
Yeah, it will be. Yeah, so it will be the work that we do through this transport modelling to identify those issues.
Thank you. Okay, and then picking up continue with the theme of flooding. Ringmer was not mentioned on the flooding slide that you have just gone through, but surface water will end up in the Ouse. Has this been considered?
In terms of flooding from various sources, we will, in terms of the level 1, it's looked at more broadly. Once we have an idea of and an understanding of which sites are potential allocations, we will look at those in more detail from a flooding perspective to understand both what the surface water flooding could be as a risk to those sites, but also what level of flooding they could potentially contribute to. So that's further work to be done that will tell us what needs and what the impact of flooding is.
Okay, thanks, Nadeem. And sticking with the theme of water, although slightly less pleasant water, does the plan look at the current sewage capacity, which we know is inadequate, especially the performance of sewage treatment works?
I'm going to direct you to the policies in the infrastructure and the water section. So I would encourage you to have a review of those to be able to get the answer to that question.
Okay, thanks, Nadeem. Sticking with infrastructure, there's a question here. I understand that Network Rail has a statutory obligation to comment on the plan. Has it done so yet? Indeed, have any of our statutory consultees replied yet? The person who's asking this question is particularly interested in what Network Rail has to say about the intersection of rail and road traffic at Cooksbridge and Hamsey level crossings.
Try and think from memory. So, as part of the process of preparing the local plan, we've got to have engaged with and consulted what are known as statutory consultees, including the rail authority. So we will have made them aware of our consultation and proposals. From memory, I can't remember whether they responded in detail to the previous consultation. So again, they will be responded to this consultation, whether that is in detailed comments or whether it's a much more broader response until we put forward sites for allocation. I won't be able to say, but yeah, we will have made them aware of our consultation, and we will have shared the previous iterations of the plan as well as the current consultation documents.
Thanks, Nadeem. Sticking on infrastructure of a different kind, has the District Council consulted UK power networks on infrastructure to include for the energy supply collection to meet the needs as we transition from gas and oil to electric heat and transport over the next 20 years, i.e. the plan will ensure capacity, will the plan ensure capacity is in place to meet future needs as we decarbonise local energy supply?
Yeah. Again, similar to the Network Rail answer, we will have consulted with them. We have active discussions with them. They as statutory undertakers have responsibilities for providing infrastructure and again, this will be identified through the infrastructure policies and the infrastructure delivery plan, which will accompany the local plan.
Thanks, Nadeem. Right, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about affordable housing. Give me 1 second. Is that coming back up? There seems to be no mention of social housing and what the count and what was council housing. Affordable housing is not affordable for many. Could you please explain this? So yeah, what's our definition of affordable housing?
So again, I'll point you to the glossary in the document, which sets out what we consider as affordable housing. Now, one of the changes coming out of the revised National Planning Policy Framework is an explicit requirement from government to set out through the local plan policies how we will look to meet social rented accommodation, which is more traditionally known as our council rent. So we will need to identify that particular need through our housing needs study, which we will recommission, and that will set out what level of housing is needed in the plan area.
Nadeem, and then a related question: how do we ensure affordable housing will be included in developments? Past developments seem to have planned affordable housing initially, and then they said they couldn't afford to include affordable housing. Of course, I like the wording of that question. Thank you. And then that didn't happen. So how do we safeguard against that?
Yeah. So I will direct you to the wording in the policies on affordable housing. We are taking a slightly different approach to what's in the current plan in terms of how we achieve affordable homes. And that's both through taking a stepped approach to what we ask for, but also making sure that where a developer is unable to deliver on site, we ask for financial contribution to help us deliver affordable homes in a different location if that's where it's more viable and deliverable. But really to make sure that we're able to get that affordable homes that we need.
Thank you, Nadeem. Okay, so on a slightly different track. Are listed houses deemed heritage assets and therefore need their setting protected?
If I've understood the question correctly, then yes, there will be an assessment of listed buildings and whether they are impacted by development. So within the particular proposal, a site that's been proposed, and within the LAR assessment, there will be a criteria in terms of how proximate or how close or far away from a listed building proposed development is. Yes, it will be included.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you about health services now. So the council recognises Seaford doesn't have adequate GP services. The project is critical with a high risk of failure. How do we propose people moving into the town will access GP services?
In terms of that particular, so it's a GP and health infrastructure. That's something we will identify through the infrastructure delivery plan, and we will work with the NHS in terms of GPs bodies to ensure that where development is identifying a need, that need is provided. Now, it may not be in the way that it's traditionally been provided, but there will be through the infrastructure delivery plan that identification of the need for that service.
Thanks, Nadeem. So my next question is back to the question of flooding. So we've described water and flood as key risks. However, the level 1 strategic flood risk assessment has decided not to include Cuckmere. Will we consider the issue for traffic on the A259 at Exeat into Alfriston? So that's just on the edge of the district.
I think Cuckmere falls outside of the plan area, so we wouldn't have looked at it as part of the flood risk. The flood risk is really looking at the area within the district, but also yeah. And the second part of the question, sorry, Brian.
Oh, it's just about sorry. It's just about the will we consider the issue of traffic on the A259 at Exeter and then into Alfriston, so that goes through.
Yeah, so this will be part of the transport modelling that is commissioned and undertaken.
Thank you. Okay, I've got a question about the land availability assessment. So the LAR, permitted and allocated sites, Appendix 6, only covers up to the end of March 2024. Will you provide a current and running total, as there have been a large number of developments approved since then?
There needs to be a snapshot and a sensible point in time, and so the information that we've published is from the end of the last monitoring period, and therefore, yes, as we move forward, we'll look to update that at points in time.
Thanks. And there's a question from Jackie: will there be drop-in consultation events in coastal towns for the next consultation later this year? And I can answer that to say, yes, there will be. We'll be repeating a similar exercise to the next phase of consultation. So back to the question of affordable housing, Nadeem. So can you please say what the definition of affordable housing is in pounds, in actual money, for this area, the rent and the price? The new NPPF, National Planning Policy Framework, says a lot about affordable housing, but if its financial viability depends on no contribution, surely there will be no money for elsewhere.
In terms of the pounds and figures, I don't have those to hand, but in terms of the housing needs study, I will point you to that. So that's available on our website. That's looked at the affordability ratios and what is affordable and the different levels in terms of the size of the accommodation. So I'd direct you to that.
Thanks, Nadeem. We have had a question. I'm going to ask you this now before I pick up a couple of others about whether we could have a quick demo how to access the survey, just because a user was one of the attendees was saying that they've tried that and got into difficulty. Mindful that we've got a few more questions coming in, is that something that you'd be able to do?
So I was just going to say, bear with me a minute or so. I will show you the portal and how you can get to it. So that's okay.
Oh, yeah, we'll give you a minute's grace. John, your question, you just mentioned the traffic transport model, which is to be commissioned. Is this the same as the East Sussex County Council traffic and transport plan we're waiting for? Yes, yeah, I believe it is, and I'll let Nadeem correct me if I'm wrong.
Right, okay. So from the council's website, I think we've got this. So this is the main council website. We've got a big banner through the middle, which takes you to our next page. And then right at the top of that page, you've got a link which will take you to the consultation portal. But if you were wanting to know where what the local plan is and what we're doing and where the consultation events are, then all of that detail is available on this page, which you'll be able to see from there. As well as going to the previous consultation. So if you wanted to see what we consulted on in November of 23 through to February of 24, then that will be accessed through this particular link. And very importantly, if you wanted to be involved in our projects, then you can click on there and join our mailing list. So coming back to the consultation and how to take part in it, then this is the main homepage of the consultation portal. And what you can do here is read the consultation document by clicking on the box here. So once you do that, it will take you through to the next page. And you can do this one of two ways. Now, if you wanted to read through the entire document, you'd click on the next button and that will move you onto the next page. But equally, if there was a particular theme that you were interested in and wanted to know, then there is a tree on the left, and that will take you directly to that particular theme and the policies within that theme. So, for instance, if you were interested in the natural environment theme, only you'd be able to click on that, and then we've set out the policies in there. In terms of then responding to the consultation, if you wanted to download the document as a Word version, you can do that from this box here. So that's available as a Word download, and then you can read that and print off sections of it as you wanted to. We have also prepared a short summary document, which sets out the key policy areas and what's included in the plan, and therefore that's accessible from this link here. In terms of the site allocation policies, those are all set out in the document here, and what you'll notice each time I click on one of those buttons, it opens up a new window. So in the main consultation document and the slideshow earlier this evening, I showed the list of those sites. What this document does, if you've not already seen it, it will set out a bit more in detail what we would expect from that development and from that site to be contributing, both in terms of the number of homes that we'd want to potentially see being developed, but also what policy requirements it would be expected to satisfy and meet. The other ways, and therefore, so in terms of getting involved in the consultation, you've got a number of options. As I said, you can either fill in the comments by making comments directly on the portal, or you could download the questionnaire and fill that out and then upload it back to us. We've had the online webinar today, so that's fine. In terms of the countdown to the end of the consultation, it's there in a handed ticker, so it's counting down the amount of time that's left before the consultation closes on the 28th. And if you wanted to know where the consultation events are taking place, then again, we've posted those here with a Google Map link. So if you wanted to, if you're not familiar with a particular location, then if you were here and clicked on this, then this would open up the map and you'd be able to put the directions in. Probably worth iterating, Bryn, here that this is available on your phone as well. So the consultation portal, while we look at it from on a laptop, you can access all of this on your mobile phone as well, smartphone. The topic papers, and so these are updated topic papers for areas and those themes. So a bit more explanation as to why that policy is being considered and what's included in it are set out through these. And so we've got a number of topic papers there from climate change through to the infrastructure and community facilities. The updated evidence that we've published since the last consultation is also listed here. But if you wanted to consult the previous evidence that's been published and what is available, then it's through the link on the evidence base. We have also the land availability, so that's all up and running. And we've published the land availability documents as we did last time round, similar to here, through these documents. So you'll be able to get more details on them. Call for sites. I mentioned we're continuing to keep open the call for sites. So this is the opportunity for anyone to suggest sites for development to the council. And again, you can do that by clicking the link here. And there's a number of sites that we're asking for. So if there's a particular last site that you want to comment on, then you'd be able to do that through this link, and that will take you to the land availability portal page. Something new for this this consultation is an interactive map. So we've got a interactive GIS map, which sets out the policies in a spatial context, and so you're able to access that. So this is the district, and the grey area on the map is the part of the district that's in the South Downs National Park and therefore not included in our local plan. You've got a tree of menus and layers to be able to select on them. So the neighbourhood plans, for those of you who are from particular neighbourhoods and parish councils, we've mapped all of your policies onto here. So for instance, in Newhaven, for no other reason that's for the cursor is, if you wanted to say where that policy applies, you'd be able to do that. But for the local plan policies that are included, so if you click on the policy mapping and expand that menu and then make this visible, what you'll see there is all of the settlements and the settlement boundaries appearing on the map, and then you can zoom into those areas to be able to really see in more finer detail the outline of the settlement. I think we had a question about listed buildings. So if you wanted to see where the listed buildings are, again, you can click on that layer and that unmasked for the listed building in the district, and you should then be able to click on a particular one if you wanted to know what that is, and that brings up the data attribute table, which will then tell you what that building is. So we've got, for instance, on this one, this is Shelley's and Chailey, and you're able to then click on those areas. So that's, I think, a demonstration of both where the portal is and how some of that information is available on there.
Thank you, Nadeem. And just to pick up a question that we've been asked, are people able to see comments made on through the last consultation? Appreciating, I think there was around 50,000 comments in total, over 50,000 comments. Where can people see the sort of outputs of that phase of consultation?
Under the evidence base, we've put out the preferred options consultation statement. So one of the documents that's included in it, and that summarizes as well as sets out our response to the comments that we've received. Can I post a copy? So I've just posted the link to that document. Now this is what we're required to do through the plan making process to set out a consultation statement. It doesn't include
You there, Nadeem? You seem to have frozen. Or is it just me?
This time around, alongside this consultation.
Thanks, Nadeem. I think either you or I froze there momentarily. Could you just say that again, please? Apologies if it's me. I'll just give you a moment to for your internet speeds to catch up. Just to pick up another couple of questions. There's a question about an evening meeting for 3 hours not being sufficient for a town of 21,000 residents, which I assume is Seaford. Just to make it really clear that any resident can go to any of the consultation events in any part of the district to talk to us about any part of the district. Whilst there's going to be an obvious focus on the locality where the events are, we're happy to talk to anyone at any of those events. There will also be a static exhibition at the marine workshops throughout the course of February, where people can inspect the maps and pick up the information. There will be hard copies of the consultation information available at town council offices, at libraries, so Seaford Library, and at the Seaford TIC as well, Tourist Information Centre as well. And we'll happily send anyone paper copies that need to see it. So a few different ways of getting involved there. Nadeem, I'm just going to ask if you're back in the room. No? Okay. I'm going to pause in that case because I don't. Oh, Nadeem, are you back? Can we hear you? I can see you. I can't hear you. You're on mute. Okay, thank you very much, Nadeem. Lawrence, can you just give me a wave to check that you can hear me and it's an issue?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I think it's more it's Nadeem. His internet is freezing, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think as the rate of questions has slowed down a little bit, so I think rather than make everyone hang on, we'll draw this to a close. We'll have access to the chat, so we can get back to any burning questions that we haven't yet. To remind everyone to please take a look at the list of events. Can you agree to answer them? Yes, yeah, sure. We can publish those. Yeah, if you could take a look at the list of events which are available both on the portal and on that bridging page, which is on the corporate webpage. And I'll pass over to Lawrence for any closing comments. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Bryn, and apologies that Nadeem's had internet problems. Clearly, any questions outstanding will be picked up, as I understand it, and will be answered. And I'd just like to thank everybody for their interaction this afternoon and the really detailed and interesting questions that have been put forward. And I'm sure there will be a lot of detailed and interesting questions that come forward at the public events, which I'd encourage people to attend and participate in. As Bryn has said, you don't have to attend the one in your locality. You can attend any of them. And I'm sure officers would be pleased to see you there. So once again, thank you to everybody for attending, and thank you to the officers and particularly Nadeem for all of his hard work. And thank you, Bryn. Cheers.
Thank you, Lawrence. Good evening, all. Bye.